Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll give people a few minutes to trickle in. But while we wait, I have a little poll for us. I'm going to launch that, and you guys can let us know. First, just like where you're at, what you're doing here. If you're, here because you're curious about Launch School or because you're in the core curriculum and curious about, what your prospective capstone experience will be like. And also, I wanted to see what people are interested in hearing about because Chris and I were talking about like what we should talk about. And there's a lot. There's a lot of different things. And, if there's something you guys don't care about as much or care about a lot, hopefully we can cater to that. And you guys aren't going to make it easy. It looks like it's just going to be split across the board. I'll share the poll results once most people have filled it out.
Just talk about everything. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll try and get everything in there.
How do these
Maybe
percent work? Oh, they're not mutually exclusive? Because I'm like, that doesn't add up
it's
to
multiple
100.
choice. Yeah,
Okay.
it's multiple choice. Yeah. Especially for the what are you most interested in? I think the first one is multiple choice too, which maybe shouldn't be, but it's all right.
You mean like multiple checkbox? They can check multiple.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How to prepare for the tougher market. That one's leading a bit. I got the feeling that that's what most people wanted to hear. Like,
Mm,
it's interesting to see what's going on for the current cohort, but what I care about most is like, how can I prepare when I'm in that situation?
mm-hmm.
Yep. And most people in the back end curriculum, that's also kind of what I expected.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering for people who are they read the article, they saw the data, how do you feel about it? And we don't have a poll for that, but just you can drop it in chat. How do you feel? Like good, bad? What you thought, maybe what was surprising about it.
Probably anxious. That's what people always are. That's your job, Chris, is to make people less anxious. Result was looking positive in this tough market. I agree with that, actually, especially when
Better than expected.
most schools, boot camps, institutions have just like dropped off the radar in terms
No
of
one shares data.
posting
Like no one
things.
knows, right?
Yeah.
So I think the problem is this. No one shares data because no one has data or just no one, they don't want to share it. And then in that vacuum, you just have a lot of doom and gloom. There's a lot of dooming. And so that tends to spiral. And it's not to say like you shouldn't like it's okay to doom, but then without data in everyone's mind, it can just go quite extreme, right? It's like
Mhm.
what's bad? Is bad zero or is bad 50%, right? These are quite big differences.
Mhm. There's already some good questions in the chat. Drop your questions in the Q&A because it's going to get lost in the chat.
Hmm.
So I'll go ahead and talk about what we're going to do. So I think Chris is kind of just going to give a high level overview of the article and maybe not too deep because it seems like most of you have read it before coming here, but kind of some of the between the lines things that we can see here and some of the confusing things like the differences in salary between one cohort to the other. So address those things kind of at a high level. I'll throw some questions at him to get some insight along the way. And then once we finish that, we can open it up to Q&A. So please use the Q&A feature and also drop your conversation into the chat because I love an active chat. And if you have kind of side questions that I can answer them there as well. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. And okay, I think most people have answered our poll, so I'll end it and oh, yeah, I'll share the results so y'all can see who you're here with and what everyone's curious about. And I'll hand it over to Chris so he can share a little bit about our 2024 capstone salary data.
Yeah. So yeah, Brandon, if you can monitor the chat and anything or the question, the Q&A box, and if anything interesting pops up, just let me know. But most of you probably already read this, so I'm gonna just kind of go through it kind of quick, right? So, first of all, if you're new to like looking at our salary data, you might be wondering, why are we talking about 2024? It's already 2026. And so the reason for that is because actually a significant percent of this data happened in 2025. These are cohort numbers. So for example, cohort 2408 conducted all of their job hunt in the year 2025. And even within the 6 month data, we count 6 month active job hunt. And as we have more initiatives during the job hunt, they pause their job hunt. So for example, we have what we call OSI, which is open source initiative, which is usually about a month, uh, that we ask people to take time off to participate working on an open source initiative, right? So if they do that, then their 6 month job hunt is going to be in the seventh month, right? So it just extends time, and we have multiple of these. So if people somehow do two of these, all of a sudden month eight is their 6 month data, right? So the more initiatives, programming we have during the job hunt, the more it extends this time. And the reason why we ask for full-time participation is because we used to do this without asking for that. We would say, yeah, job hunt and do this half and half or whenever you have time, and it just doesn't work well. And when we switch to asking people to do it full-time, they're able to do great work. And the whole point of this is to do great work so that you can enhance your resume, add really impressive entries onto the resume to improve your job hunt. That's the whole point. Otherwise, you do this and if you don't ship great work, then you did nothing to help your chances on the market, right? So after making that tweak, it's been a wonderful experience, and we have great results from it. But unfortunately, the cost of that is extension of this job hunt, right? So that's why even for 2408, the cohort who started their job hunt in January, their 6 month numbers sometimes we don't know until like August. So it took us a lot, and also I just end of the year and all that. I got busy with our LS bot development work, so a little bit on my end too, so a little bit delayed. But here we are. And so 2401, for example, did their job hunt in the second half of year 2024, right? So actually, a significant percentage of data it happened in 2025. And that and so that market that those market conditions are very relevant for us today. The biggest thing probably that I'm noticing in the most recent batch of data is the no job hunt. And I think there's a lot of questions about this, like what is this? So this is either not completing Capstone, the curriculum, or just they did not do any job hunt at all, right? And so this used to be zero. We used to have no one that fell into this category. Obviously, not completely capstone as we have more enrollees. This is just naturally going to happen, right? So before when we had like 30 people, 20 people, less chance of falling out. As this number goes up, more of this. But what's interesting is I think that as the job hunt and market conditions get more difficult, Capstone attracts a lot of very capable people, people who are coming from, really great careers and wanting to transition. So the calculation is like, well, should I spend an unknown number of months, potentially 6 months, potentially more than 6 months to do a job hunt, whereas I can just go back to my, consulting job, architecture job. I'm already making like over $100,000. So the opportunity cost is quite high. So some of them will say, well, I'm going to go back to that. And then I can just job hunt like kind of casually on the side. And so for them, they just don't do a job hunt. I'm seeing more people make that calculation. And just because it's easier to do that and kind of wait out this software engineering market than do a full-time job hunt. And so that's the difference between this and this. This is like people committed to doing job hunt and they're job hunting, right? So, and why are they still job hunting? Sometimes it's due to like we had, I forget which cohort this is, but we had this hurricane in Florida or a couple hurricanes, and it knocked out several people in Tampa and other affected areas. And they were delayed by, like 6 months and other things like that. Personal things happen, so they're delayed by a significant amount of time, right? So some of them are still kind of delayed or slash paused, and very few, I would say out of this 12 number, only couple, only a few are like actively job hunting. Most are sort of in the pause state. They're going to come back because of some unique situation, right? So overall, my impression is that if you're actively job hunting, there you are able to get interviews, and if you're not able to get interviews, we have ways of addressing that, like with our OSI opportunity, to beef up the resume. And again, this is not like to put like lipstick on a pig or something like that, right? To dress you up, to work on the packaging only. It's not that. You went through core, you went through capstone, and even the OSI is about doing real work, making real patches to real open source projects. So it's about proving yourself, right? Less packaging and more just an opportunity to showcase your abilities. And so that formula has worked. And this is the advantage of being a software engineer. This is a career transitioning into software engineer without a engineering degree is only possible because of this, right? This is not possible if you want to be a neurosurgeon. You can't just practice on your friends. Um, you can't build a resume that way, right? But in our field, you can. However, it's got to be very impressive. It's got to be substantial. It's got to be real, right? It can't be a fake thing. The days of doing that is over. Right. So, um,
Chris,
yeah.
can I ask about the open source projects, and also I think we've had a few internships. I want to
hmm
know like how in control capstone grads are in that. Like if someone came in and they had kind of low confidence and like just didn't feel great, could they like start that right away
Oh,
before
I
even
see.
starting job hunt? Or is it
Mm,
like you have to do job hunt and then, if it's not working out, you can maybe do this? Like how much is there a formula
got
or
it. Yeah.
do they kind of case by case?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. So, we offered the OSI as a choice for you to make around the third month of your job hunt. And the reason for that is because we want you to do a job hunt first to see if you need it. So a lot of people are very busy interviewing. They don't need more entries on the resume. So if your profile is like that, then you don't need to do this. This is why we want you to job hunt first. But if you're applying a lot, doing all the things we ask you to do, and you're just not getting any responses back, then yes, participate in this for sure. Right. The hardest part is if you're not strong out of the gate job hunting, which is a lot of people. It's job hunting is kind of weird. And it's my job to sort of encourage everybody and push everybody. But if you don't do that, then it's hard to know whether or not you should do this, right? Because it's like, is your current profile good enough for the market? And so yeah, that's how it goes. So it's not like something you just like raise your hand and go like, I want to do it now, and that's it. There is a schedule to this, and there's a sequence to this.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, keep asking questions. I'm just kind of going down this list here. So, our placement results, I've broken down into two tables. One is with the 6 months, and then one is with including after 6 months. And obviously, this number will keep going up as more people finish, right? So, it's bad compared to our historical capstone numbers, which were like 100. We were like 100% for many years, right? But as far as I can tell, like I really looked, I just did not see anyone, computer science departments included, posting any sort of numbers that's like that we can compare with. I couldn't find anything. So, and kind of in chat here, everyone I've spoken to casually behind the scenes have said this is way better than what they expected, and especially like market sentiment and things like that. So, I don't want to say this is good or bad, but I just don't know, right? But as far as I can tell, we're the only ones posting numbers at all. Um, I can tell you that people are actively interviewing. So if you're over here and you're wondering like, man, how do I make sure that I'm not in this category, right? I think if you work through core, work through capstone, um, it's like my whole philosophy is I don't want you to get to the end and realize you're just like completely dis unqualified for the field. Like hopefully we discover that in core prep, right? As early as possible, if that's true. But you know, my whole philosophy is you can earn it through work, right? So do the work. And then by the time you get here, it's just everyone, even the people who are actively job hunting, have followed instructions all the way through. There's just a few of them here. They're still interviewing. They're actively interviewing. There's engagements to be had. And then so there's other things to improve your chances there as well.
Yeah, so what puts someone in that no job so far category? Like, can you give a few anecdotal scenarios about like why does someone end up there instead of accepted
You mean
within
beyond like
6
natural
months?
disasters and
Beyond
unforeseen like health
hurricanes,
issues
yes.
and things like that?
Yeah. Things that are in
Um,
their control.
in your control, sure. If I were to just try to distill it down to just a few pointers, it would be one is you have to believe in yourself and you have to have a confidence. Getting hired is not, it's so far beyond just passing a technical quiz. It's so far beyond that. That's the bare minimum, right? And so if you went through core, I'm pretty sure you can pass the technical bar, a lot of these things. But the goal of going through core, going through capstone is to develop a sense of self-confidence. And at some point, you have to turn it around and make other people feel safe about you. Does that make sense? So a lot of job hunters, I feel like they demand a lot from the interviewer, from the company, from the role. I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, I want to switch pay, I want remote, I want training, I want to be mentored. It's like if you can flip that around and think of yourself as somebody who can mentor others, can make things better. If something's messed up, you're the one that you're Johnny on the spot. You're gonna go fix it. Great ownership. Um, work on that. That's a hard switch to flip on the day of the interview, right? You have an interview tomorrow. Hey, just be confident. Just be yourself. Have you heard that advice? It's like, just be myself. I'm a wreck, right? Work on that. And I think a lot of it, sometimes it comes from other things, you know, it comes from like going to the gym every day. It comes from, you know, other aspects of like having a good diet. I don't know. Like it's beyond just like technical leak coding. It's beyond that, in my opinion. So having that, I think will be like and the reason why I'm talking about this stuff is because I feel very confident in our technical training. I feel very, very good about our ability to like if like the technical gaps are by far the easiest gaps to plug. You know, if you have a technical deficiency, I have a resource for you. I have a book for you. And by the time you get to Capstone, you're that's why I love working with Capstone people because I'm like, go read that book. They do it. Right? Talk to people in prep. You don't know. Maybe they sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But capstone people, they're very diligent, very like they'll go through any resource, which is great, easy to work with. The hard part for me is that part. So if you can come into capstone with that part strong, I got the technical part covered for you.
Yeah, I think in core that's a huge distinguisher between students too. It's just like having a positive attitude. And so, we have a bunch more interviews than we used
Yeah.
to for several different reasons, but it's a good opportunity to practice. Like, are you happy when you're being interviewed? Are you
Yeah.
happy when you're in study sessions with people? If
Yeah.
you're working on a really tough problem, like, do you get angry and like sigh and sometimes curse? Or are you like,
100%.
wow, this is so interesting? Like, let me dig
Yeah.
into this some more, right? That attitude. So
That
there are
attitude.
opportunities to
Yeah.
practice it in core, but
Yeah.
not as much as the
Yeah, we
technical
try to
side.
distill it down to little words like be positive. It's like I'm positive. Right? But it is be positive. Like I think this is what's great about in a community like Launch School, you get to observe. You get to see what the threshold is. You think you know, it's like this person's amazing to work with. Why? And how can I be more like this person? Right? If
Mhm.
you can start that process in core, by the time you're job hunting in Capstone, you can just react to advice that I can give you much better. Nudges, much better. if you need work on that end in Capstone, we're just handicapped on that. We don't have time to address some of these things, right? So if you view this whole thing as like diagnosing diagnostics in terms of like how do I figure out like what do you need? Is it technical? Is it this? Is it this? Is it that? Right? That's what I try to do, right? But there are certain things that I just, that I can't push on. Technical things, I feel 100% confident I can push on. We got curriculum, we got content, we have alumni that are now basically experts in every niche you can imagine. We just had a alumni publish a book on AI. So like, I feel like I have access to a ton of resources. I can pull in people, plug in all the technical gaps. That's not an issue for us.
The we've had some like top tier salary outcomes, like some people with really amazing salaries. Do you think that that's attributed to like one thing over the other? Like, is it the soft skills? Is it prior work experience? Or is it kind of like all of those things come together and happen to be working,
Sure, yeah. If you're talking about the top end of the salary, of course it's all the above, right?
right?
And on top of those things, it's also location, right? It's like NYC and San Francisco. And on top of the location, it's like 996, right? And I think, I don't know if you're not familiar with that phrase, that means 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, right? It's just a lot of work. It doesn't necessarily mean exactly that, but it's
That
startups.
mentality.
Yeah, you're San Francisco startups now, right? That's definitely on the table. And I don't want to overblow it too much either. I don't want to scare people into this. It's like we're not like doing manual labor for 12 hours a day in 100-degree heat, right? It's like you're doing dinner with your colleagues, and it can be a fun environment if you're able to. But if you have a family and all that, of course, that's not on the table, right? But if you're younger and you don't have too many attachments, I think it's an interesting opportunity for a certain phase of life.
Hmm.
If that's the season of life you're in, I think you can turn that into a positive.
Hmm. Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the New York, San Francisco Bay Area spike? Like that was a bit confusing when reading the data. At first you were like,
Mm,
whoa, one of these cohorts did way better. Like what's going on,
yeah.
2405 or whatever it was.
2405. Yeah, that's I think that's the 2025 cohorts actually. So maybe I'll fast forward over there. So I'll just kind of quickly talk about the 2024 salaries. They look pretty good. These are US numbers, USD. I know people in Canada and other parts of the world are crying, but it's, um, and then I broke down the remote for 2024. You notice not a big difference. I'm starting to see a difference for cohort 2025 for sure. So this cohort still didn't feel it yet. So if I look at that chart here, see, this is the year 2024. We're still like at 61%. We're still here. Look at these two cohorts. Zoom, right? Big drop. Pretty crazy drop. And so for 2501, the January 2025 cohort who started their job hunt in May, and then 2505 who started their job hunt in August, if you remove December, which is kind of a dead month for job hunt, this is only a few months ago. This is like 3 months ago, right? Um, these salaries are very high. Like this is because it's only one in these cities. This is 5 out of 8 in these cities. And they're all local jobs. They're not remote jobs, right? So remote is much lower percent. So I think by the time we report these cohort, you're going to see a huge difference between remote and non-remote, and particularly if the non-remote is in these cities.
Hmm. Yeah, so there's an emphasis on San Francisco Bay Area and New York City. Are people still getting in-person roles elsewhere? Like if someone is, in core and they're like, "Oh, I'm in Austin, like am I going to have opportunities there?"
I think Austin is probably right after this. Austin's like
Okay,
right
other
there.
cities.
Yeah, other cities are just harder, right? If you're in a Chicago or if you're in Tampa, Florida or something like that, it's hard. There's just fewer, and they pay less for sure.
Hmm.
They're not gonna pay, this is an average, that means like a lot of people make more in this. So, it's I think it's harder for sure.
Yeah. What do you think someone, a prospective capstone grad, should be considering if they're like, I cannot move, I live in rural wherever, and
Yeah,
it's just not possible for me? Like, should they be reconsidering? Should they be like preparing in other ways? Like,
it's a
how do we
risk.
set their expectations?
Yeah, it's a risk. I mean, look, I'm gonna share data with you. I right, I'm gonna encourage you if your life allows to go to the hot places, right? And I would put Austin on the table there. You could also try to do a remote job hunt just first, and
Hmm.
save the relocation idea for later. And this is what I mean by like I think in this market the career switcher tourist is over,
Hmm.
right? I think it's very much like this is me. This is what I want to do,
Hmm.
When I graduated college, I moved to Austin, right? So that's normal. That was normal. It wasn't like a thing like no one balked or anything like that. Remote work was like not in vogue at all. So relocating for a job is actually, I think, if you look at the long-term history, is normal,
Hmm.
right? And in fact, it's so normal. Capstone used to mandate that you move to New York City or San Francisco. A lot of people don't know that, but pre-COVID, there was a time where we were like, yeah, if you want to do capstone, you only do it in San Francisco and New York City. You have to move there for the job hunt.
Hmm.
That was mandatory. When COVID rolled around, everything became remote. And so, our capstone program was remote. And so we're now kind of going back to that. And I think everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, why is that happening? And from my perspective, it's like that's more normal than the everything's remote.
It's the unhappening of the remote, not
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
return to office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone was just curious, and I am too. Did those five people who have accepted jobs in um, the Bay Area or New York, did they live there, or do we have like a lot of
Mm,
capstone grads relocating?
got it. Man, I don't think I know that off the top of my head. I know at least two relocated, but they were targeting San Francisco.
They like wanted to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least two. They were like when they apply, they're saying, "Hey, I'm currently in a different place
Yeah.
for family reasons, but I'm going there, so
Yeah.
I will
To
go."
be
And
fair, San Francisco is really expensive, so I don't know if the salary is actually that different. Like it's increased quite a bit for those areas, but they're also very expensive areas to live. You know.
I I lived in I got a job when I lived in Houston, Texas, and then they wanted me to go to San Francisco, so I did that. And it was a
Hmm.
huge pay raise, but because of the state tax difference and the cost of living difference, I really felt I was making the same, if not maybe even less.
Hmm.
It was quite intense. But yeah, so that number is very high, but
Yeah.
yeah, cost of living,
So move
taxes.
there to get a job, not to like roll in dough.
What's
Uh,
okay, so I can if this is an interesting topic, I'll talk more about this. I think what's cool about this is not really like if you make 95 in the Michigan and you make 140, yeah, you should really think about this. I don't know which one's actually better, especially if you have family and friends in Michigan, right? Or whatever, some other city. Um, but what's good about this is that the network, like I think if you just purely do the math here, is you're underselling the value. Like I don't think
mhm,
it's the extra, 50,000. It's really the fact that this is where the action is for software engineering, for tech. Yeah,
mhm.
it's like being in the Renaissance era and not being willing to move to Florence, Italy.
Right.
And it's just like, why? Why would you not go there? Are
Hmm.
because you're not that serious about it, I guess, right? But if you're serious about it, you want to go to Florence, Italy, you want to go to San Francisco because that's where all the things are, right? The money, the people, the action. And on top of that, it unlocks opportunity for the future, right?
Hmm.
Unknown opportunity, haphazard collision opportunity. Um, and if you ever want to like jump to, let's say, a FANG company, which really is truly where the high pay gets unlocked. This to me is, not that material. I know it sounds crazy, but like this to me is not really that interesting. What's interesting is making is like where you start calculating your total comp in millions, like half a million or a quarter million. Like that's interesting, and that's only possible if you target a public company because your
Hmm.
comp is like 140 or 150, and then your stocks are like 140, 150. That's 300,000, right? It's a third of a million a year. That's where it gets really interesting. And if you do that, um, like you just have a higher chance of doing that if you're like over here. You're just constantly bumping into people. You're constantly, uh, So look, I don't want to oversell this too much either. I just like if you want to live in a different city and make this much, it's totally fine. Like I think it's okay.
Hmm.
But I think there's just more. Uh, Again, if you're in a certain season of life, I think this is where it is.
Hmm. Yeah, and it ties back to the kind of common thread that it is tougher now, and so the like key element is passion. Like, do you actually want to be here, or were you like just trying to, career switch because it sounded
Mhm.
nice over here, Do
Yeah.
you want to be here? Yeah.
Yeah, the accounting of all this, I think, is tougher to justify for sure. Like in the
Hmm.
past, I think it was just like, yeah, I'm making good salary here, but I hate my job and there's no growth. Whereas software, in 3 months I can make the same, and then
Hmm.
there's growth.
Hmm.
That's not a good calculation anymore.
Hmm. Someone's curious. Let me see. I think maybe we'll just do one more question on this and then move on
Yeah.
because I don't want to like bog us down with this like salary is huge, San Francisco. Can you tell us a little bit about the person who got the 200K offer or no? Just a little bit?
Yeah, so this person had prior experience plus an
Mm,
engineering degree.
okay.
So I don't think it's necessarily replicable based on
Hmm.
effort.
Right.
But I think what's motivating is that you see sort of like the best resume getting that. It's like, oh, I don't have that. That's no big deal, but I'll take less than that, right? I think that's what's motivating. If you see like the perfect profile and they're able to make like 50,000, that's when it's like, oh,
Mm, right.
right. It's like, okay, that may be not as worth trying, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, that's unique. I think I hesitate to really mention a lot of this stuff, frankly. I mean, like over the holidays, I got some DMs. I haven't replied to them yet. I need to, but the Capstone alumni, they're just sending me like thank you messages, happy holiday messages, and I don't ask for this. I don't know why, but they want to share with me their total comp. They're
Hmm.
like, by the way, I'm making this much money now. Thank you for
Yeah.
that, right? And I used to make 10% of this. Kid
Hmm.
you not. People say I used to make 10%,
Right.
of this salary, and it's literally measured in millions because of how high it is, total comp, right? Public companies.
Hmm.
And I think that's what we're trying to do. I think that's my hope. If you don't hit that, that's okay. But,
Hmm.
you're still able to get on a good trajectory,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think the concern should be getting a job because launch
Getting a
school
good
students
job.
in particular have this like hurdle that like we don't have engineering degrees or whatever.
Yeah.
But then once you get the foot in the door, then you can like worry about salary because you have, a job that you're putting in experience and proving yourself and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything else in the article that you want to cover, or can I jump into some, maybe we'll pivot to AI? if
Oh,
you don't have any big
no, I
insights.
don't think I just wanted to, I think the biggest thing was just the remote thing I wanted people to pay attention to because that's one thing I feel bad about is people spend a lot of time in core and capstone and then, when they entered core, it was like 2 years ago and it was like different set of data. And then when they
Mhm.
finish, like the market changed underneath them a little bit. So I just wanted to share this, mostly the remote, this is the biggest, to me, this is by far the biggest issue with our placement because we have a significant number of capstone participants who entered core thinking about a remote job.
Specifically, right?
Yeah. And so this is a big problem. It's really nothing
Mhm.
else. It's not AI. It's not. It's actually this remote thing is a major issue for our participants.
Mhm.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so yeah, go back to the office. If you can't, expect it to be more difficult, but still doable, it seems. Let's talk about AI a little bit. Maybe just to start, could you tell us a little bit about how the job has changed? Like,
sure,
people
yeah.
came in with this idea of what software engineering looks like, and that's also changed in the last 2 years. So what's that day to day look like?
Yeah. So when we talk about AI, I think there's like two things, maybe three things. Okay. So the first thing is like using AI as an end user, like using LSBot, using ChatGPT, using Gemini. That's fine. We'll set that aside, right? The next thing we'll talk about AI is from an AI engineering standpoint, which is building AI applications, like building LSBot. So using new um, components like vector databases, embedding models, calling OpenAI API, and building something like a LSBot, right? That's fine. That's what we have in the core curriculum sorry, that's what we have in the capstone 2 week program now, right? The third thing is is the thing that's like the fastest moving and impacting developers day to day, which is AI assisted coding tools like Cursor, like Claude Code. And that is a big sh shift in terms of how we meaning like professional developers, work. Uh, the problem with talking about that now in the scope of Launch School is that it is very fast moving. The capabilities of these tools is extremely moving very fast. The scope of what they can do. So it's not like we can create a course on like relational databases and be like, study this, master this, right? By the time we do that, not even 3 months, right? 6 weeks, it'll be outdated. And so even professional developers are having a hard time keeping up with it. But that's by far the most fast moving part of the profession. I don't think it changes your core curriculum experience though, because these tools are a magnifier for your ability. And in many ways, the best way to use them is to already be a practitioner, be an expert. So I'll give you an example. It's like um what's that graphics tool where you can make like fancy graphics? Uh I'm blanking here. You can make graphic. Okay, so like these
Like
these gra
Excalibur or like Canva?
no, the Photoshop. That's Photoshop.
Photoshop.
Yeah, Photoshop. So there's a lot of tools like Photoshop out there, and they make it more and more friendly for beginners. Does that make everyone an artist? Right? No, there's still a wide range of capabilities and professionals who can use Photoshop, can still like artists, right? Or Illustrator, Photoshop, these types of tools can produce better art faster, with more precision. But those of us who are not illustrators or artists can use it to do like basic things, but you're not going to produce like amazing art with it, right? So I think it's a similar thing happening. where it really magnifies one's capabilities or incompetency, right? And so there's going to be a continued effort to try to make these tools usable by less skilled or experienced people by putting up guardrails, putting up templates, putting up, easy one-click solutions. But for the practitioners and the experts, you get the no guardrails version. And for those people, they'll be able to produce things way more impressive than the one-click version. But it still means we'll have more like templated and one-click version of tools and products and software and games and things like that, right? So um, it's this idea that the tool the tool is still a reflection of the person using the tool, right? So we're trying to train to be a professional, right? Frankly, I mean, where do these salary numbers come from, right? It's you got to be better than the other humans. It's not quite zero sum, but there is a competitive aspect to this, and we're trying to push your capabilities and your competency levels so that at the end of the core curriculum, you can then take advantage of these tools. Like at Launch School, all of us, we all use these tools when we're coding stuff.
Yeah,
So
so what should core curriculum people be doing? Like, should they be installing cursor? Should they be kind of like ignoring the fundamentals because AI knows the fundamentals? Should they only use LSBot but not ChatGPT? Like, what should people be doing?
yeah, currently the answer is no to installing Cursor and Cloud Code and things like that. Obviously, if you're curious, you can check it out, but I feel like just be careful, right? This is the same idea as like learning a framework. Like, why do we have to learn these programming constructs and lower level concerns when we can just React or Rails or something like that, right? Create a app real quick. It's because if you do that, you'll lose control quickly. You'll see. Like you can, I mean, you know what? Maybe it's better to like go and vibe code something and then see how quickly you lose control. So from that perspective, maybe it's interesting in that you will see how when you need more control, you just can't, right? When you are trying to accept the code or ask for more suggestions, you don't know, like you don't know what to do. Should I accept it? I don't know, right? Like the advice right now is like, oh, you can treat AI like a junior developer. And when it presents you a solution, you can just keep talking to it. If you're not technical, you wouldn't talk to it. You'd be like, whatever. You'd be like, okay, yeah, let's do it, right? Because you're not technical. This is like for any of you who have ever like worked with a non-technical client, it's very unsatisfying because it's sort of like that. But you're in this case, you're the non-technical client. And um when I read descriptions like this, I'm like, this is how I work already, right? Except I'm working with humans. But I can only do this after knowing the fundamentals, knowing what I want, knowing what I'm looking for, being able to reject suggestions or offer um, variations to that suggestion. Say, oh, I don't want to, I don't, I don't quite want it that way. I want it this way. I'm worried about this data or that data, Uh, so you just won't be able to do that if you don't have those fundamentals already. Um, but I would say maybe the value of like vibe coding is a similar thing as the value of like trying to learn a complicated framework like a Rails or a Django or a React before you know the topics in the core curriculum. You'll see, you'll feel it. You'll see how you'll feel quickly how like out of control things are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the fundamentals, and also I think one of the biggest things that allows core grads to be able to use AI assisted tools pretty naturally once they get started is just how adamant we are about language precision. Even if you can read code and understand it, you have to be able to communicate about it because now we're almost writing code in plain English. So you
Yeah.
have to be able to describe exactly what you want or describe exactly what's wrong with a proposed solution. So work on the fundamentals. They're
Yeah.
still applicable. Amazingly, they've just stayed the most important thing. Um,
It's so important. Communication, it's always been important to communicate with other humans, but now the communication is extra important to communicate with AI.
right.
It's so critical. Like people when you cancel the core curriculum, we ask for a reason. And I've seen in the past, more than one person say something like, I came here to learn the code, not to like take interviews or like not to like talk about code. And I'm like,
You
that's
got it
that's actually
twisted.
the work. This is
Yeah.
before AI, right? I'm like, that's actually the work. You talk to other engineers.
Hmm.
Typing out code actually is by far the easiest part.
Hmm.
Now with AI, it's that difference is magnified even more,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think we're very pedantic in the core curriculum, but man, is that such an advantage now when you're working
Hmm.
with these systems.
Hmm. Someone asked, and I think that might be the answer to their question. Like, with all of this tighter market, I mean, people with computer science degrees are having a hard time getting jobs. So, what is making employers still choose capstone grads?
Yeah, I think the assumption to that question is almost like we're below all computer science grads. Why would they
That's
choose us when I mean that's not true at all, right? Like it's not sequential like this. Like the bottom 50% of computer science grads, come on now, right? Especially from like the bottom computer science departments. No. And if you can go through core and capstone, you're in the top whatever percent, top 20% of computer science grads. So I don't really, I mean, we have computer science grads in the program, so like, it's not just me saying that.
hmm.
Um, yeah, so we compete because we're better than most. That's the
Hmm.
easy answer. We're better than most computer science grads.
Hmm. This is a quick and easy question. Which has been affected more in the down market? Is it getting interviews or passing interviews?
Good question. So for a while, I was saying that getting interviews is harder, but the interviews themselves are not harder. Um, but I'm gonna revise that a little bit. Getting interviews is definitely harder now. Passing them is also harder now. And not just because it's like more difficult, like the questions themselves aren't necessarily harder. You're getting judged a little bit more harsher and the judgment's changing a little bit, especially with AI. I'll give an example, like take homes, right? So a lot of times you get a take home, say, hey, take 3 days to do it. Take just like what we have in the core curriculum. Our core curriculum assessments are very mirrored after like real job interviews. So you got to take home. What do we do to take home? Brandy, do you remember 239?
We do a few.
189?
Yeah, we do 189 and 229 and
220,
239.
239. Okay, so we do a bunch of take homes, right? So it's very similar to that. Now, more and more I'm noticing it used to be like if you produce good code and it works, like if it works, like you'll get a call back. And if you have good code, then that's even better. And if you then they'll like ask you about like your choices of code and stuff like that and see if you actually did it. Now, because AI can basically do these take homes, they are asking for your chat log conversation that you use with AI to generate the solution, and they want to see how thoughtful you are in your collaboration with AI that produced this. Did
Got to start
you?
being nicer to the AI.
Yeah, how nice are you? So it's not just like, hey, here's my take home, can you do a solution? If that's your chat log history, toast, you're toast, right? So it's like, how thoughtful are you? Where did you maybe push back? How did you consider some edge cases? How did you consider ramifications to how the data might flow? Um, just how thoughtful were you in this entire conversation? And that's a really interesting change, right? That's a really interesting change. So it's to me in a lot of ways, what happened is like I always said the core curriculum and Launch as a whole in general is like trying to catch people up to like a long running series like the Game of Thrones. We're trying to go from season 1 to season 5 because right now the industry's on season 5. I feel like another season came out. Another couple seasons came out. And now we're on season 8. So we need to like catch up even more. Does that mean you don't need season 1 through 5 anymore? No, you still need that. You just need more now as well.
Yeah, cool. Let's see. So our capstone student, like we're not going to do AI coding in core. Maybe people can play around with it if they want. Are we going to do that in capstone? Because if people are using AI on take-home projects, of course, at some point we have to address this and like prepare people, right?
Yeah. So just because of how fast moving it is, right now everyone's just like hanging on. We're just trying to monitor, right? And whatever we monitor and we see, we'll just kind of ad hoc share it with the capstone cohort. No official curriculum for it. Because there is nothing standardized. There's no curriculum. It's a very much chaotic environment at the moment. So you do have to embrace chaos a little bit. You do have to embrace
Hmm.
this a little bit, and
Hmm.
play around. Very exploratory, very play oriented, very hands-on oriented. This is another attribute about what it takes us to see now, right? So, um, core curriculum, follow instructions, work hard, do everything we tell you to do.
Hmm.
After you finish core curriculum, you have to be very play oriented, high agency, because there's no tutorial. There's no definite pathway because the tutorials, the lifespan, the val of a tutorial right now in that space is like a month, right? Like Cloud Cloud Code 4.5 just came out,
Hmm.
changed the game again. The 10th time that's happened in the last 6 months, right? So
Hmm.
um yeah, just have to be play oriented. But how do you get like the problem is if you're like very early in the core curriculum, you don't have the ability to even get into the game,
Hmm.
right? So my advice right now is hurry up and finish core. Exciting things happening.
Right. Yeah, and AI assisted coding was like built by and for developers. So the fundamentals that good developers have very naturally translates into being able to use those tools. So it's not crazy. It's not like you have to learn an entire, new field.
And I
It
think
it
I think it doesn't stop here. I think if you're just like, okay, this is too much, I'm gonna go back to my data analyst job or whatever. Wrong move because Claude Code is not stopping at code. It's just gonna be Claude. It's just gonna be
mm,
Claude, and it's gonna go everywhere, right?
mhm.
So
Yeah. There's no choice of jumping
we're
on
we're
the
we're seeing it first
bandwagon.
because these guys who created, I should say guys, but like these people who created the tool, they're developers, right? They're academics, they're developers. That and also code is text, right? So text generation, code generation, and code is very formalized text. And so it's a natural place to start, but it's not going to stop here. It's going to go to every industry. So
Mhm.
even if you're going to be like, this is crazy, I'm going to go back to my sane job. I don't think it's
Mhm.
going to be sane for long.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I want to touch on this topic because this is one thing that I was curious about as well. In the article, you mentioned startups. So, can you talk a little bit about capstone grads, like what the difference is applying to startups versus, Fortune 500 companies? Like, wh- who's doing what? What's there more of? What's the difference?
Okay. Uh, I'll differentiate startups and big tech. Fortune 500 is a different thing. Like non-tech Fortune 500. That's a totally
Yeah.
different thing. But the startup world is heavily concentrated where money is, and that is San Francisco and New York City, and mostly San Francisco, frankly. I put those two together, but it's mostly San Francisco. Um, that's just where the money is. It attracts all the talent. Money attracts talent. And that's why, even though lots of other cities want to try to replicate it, you need to start with people willing to dish out money to 20-year-olds with a bad idea, right? Like you have to have lots and lots of people like that. Like here's $5 million. You have this crazy thing, go for it, right? That $5 million gets trickled down to us, simple. programmers, right? So they need to go hire people, right? So that's how that whole ecosystem works. Big tech is harder for capstone grads. Straight out of capstone. We've had people get into these big companies, but it's hard for a couple reasons. One is they can be selective because as I said, their pay is extraordinarily high because they have your base salary and then they have a public stock that's liquid basically. You have a 1 year cliff a lot of times. That means you can't sell it for a year. But it's not uncommon to see something like a 170 salary with $100,000 additional in stock that you can sell in a year. And then again, a big company is probably not going to go to zero, right? This is different from stock options for startups. But these are actual RSUs, it's called restricted stock units, which means you can just sell them a year later when it vests. That's like $280,000, right? So at that price range, at that compensation range, I mean, they're going to attract everybody, right? You got PhD from Stanford. Like that's not, that's a hard battleground. We've had people kind of get into those places, but they had prior experience working at like big companies and things like that, right? And I would say that's very rare, right? That's very rare. So that's why for us it hasn't worked. And the second reason is like they're slow. So we have lots of capstone people who interview at these companies like Google and Facebook and things like that. They're in no rush. They're like Google's like, "Oh, we would like to interview you for a job. Here's a cracking the coding interview book. Go ahead and read that and let me know when you're ready." Um, and then you're like, "Okay." A couple weeks later, you're like, "I'm ready." They'll say, "Okay, first call is in a month." Right? And startups are not like that. Startups are like, "Oh, you look interesting. Can we talk like tomorrow?" And so we've had lots of people who enter these big tech interview processes and even pass. And so I should finish that thought, which is a lot of times they pass. It's like a centralized hiring process. They pass and then they enter like a matching phase. This whole thing takes months. Even the matching phase is still interviewing, but they're not going to grill you. It's more like just meet and greet. You've already passed, you're on the inside, so you're trying to match to a team. And that takes forever too. So we've had lots of people kind of like just quit the process. And sometimes people even get all the way through to the end. They're just matching at this point, but then they're sitting on another offer that's really good, right? And then so they go there. So big tech is hard for a lot of these reasons. They're slow. I think it's more optimized for like a second job hunt, um, or obviously for university, if and they hire straight out of university too. But for a second job hunt, I think it's much better because you're already at a job and you're only targeting like Google or Facebook or something like that, and you're just focused on those jobs. I think that's a little bit easier.
Yeah, you're prepping for your job hunt while you're at work at your first job.
Yeah, you're not in a rush and you're just like, I'm in a great situation, but if you can double my salary, I'll take it.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I lost the question. Oh, the consensus on the internet, where'd that go? Seems to be that like cold applying to job postings is like completely dead. That's like the impression that people have. Do you have like any insight on how capstone grads are getting jobs, like cold applying versus referrals?
All the above. There's no time for strategy. You have to apply. It's non-zero. It's very low, but it's non-zero.
Hmm.
So whatever's non-zero, you have to do. I also think there's a different advice for different people. I think this is why it's hard to sometimes to give like public job hunt advice. It's like,
Hmm.
I don't know who you are. I don't know your background. I don't know what university you went to. I don't know where you live. These things are really important too, right?
Hmm.
And so I don't want to say like cold applications don't work. They obviously do to some degree. And they work better if you have a more impressive background, right? But also you should do other things too, like referrals, work your personal network. But it is not a time for like here's the things you need to do and don't do these things. It's like you got to do everything. I also find
Hmm.
this is another comment about job hunt advice in general that you read online. Any good job hunt advice only works for 6 months.
Hmm.
because other people do it, and it
Hmm.
loses its efficacy once everyone does it, right? So
Hmm.
there's no good job hunt advice because it only lasts 6 months. Oh, you should build a portfolio. You should build a web page. You should ping people. Like none of these things are like secrets to a job hunt. Any
Hmm.
true secret is lifespan of until everyone figures it out and then it doesn't work anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the moral seems to be that the job hunt phase during capstone is a lot of hard work and maybe the hardest part of
Yeah,
capstone.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hard work. And it it requires a lot of emotional fortitude because it doesn't feel good to get rejected,
Hmm.
right? And so your first couple rejections, I think, will knock you out for a week
Hmm.
if you haven't experienced rejection. This is why I love musicians, by the way, because they're like, oh, no worries. I'm used to being rejected from auditions.
Mm,
We have
right.
professional musicians. They're just like cranking on the job hunt. I'm like, this is wonderful because they're used to
Yeah.
being rejected from the audition
You're like, you
process.
okay? And they're like, no, it's
They're
fine.
like, oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it might be hard to get rejected from 20 jobs and then feel like there's still a chance, right? Like for your average person to like get up and be like, okay, I'm gonna apply to 20 more.
yeah, if you're a B actor, an aspiring professional musician, you'll do great here. Let's do it.
A few people just got really inspired. I know it. They're like, wait, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool. Okay, let's see. A lot of specific, I mean, people always want to know about their specific situation. I think,
yeah.
Chris is always open to talking with people. Um,
Am
but
I?
okay, maybe not always, but prospective capstone people, you chat with people. It's true. Not always. You're
Yeah,
not on call, but um, are people who don't have any, not any, but are people who have very little professional experience in anything really struggling right now?
yeah. Define really struggling.
More so, yeah, like more so than,
Yeah, the answer is yes.
mhm. Yeah, so you benefit if you have some
You
sort
got to
of
bring
professional background.
more energy, activity, and emotional fortitude for any deficiency that you have.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Hmm. Cool. Okay, well, I mean, I think we've answered most of the not very specific questions. I mean, if you
okay.
want to talk about like how the salaries are in LA, but you know, hard to
I
answer.
don't have, yeah, LA is I think there's a lot of people who have this impression that there's other tech cities. And I think there might be like big tech, like Seattle's comes up a lot. Um,
But
it's
the startups.
it's the startups and San Francisco just it I don't think it's I get this question about Canada a lot too. Like how come Canada's like that? How come it's not like the US? And my response here is that it's not US even. It's just San Francisco, New York City, and maybe Austin. That's it. And it's not like LA's bad or Seattle's bad. It's just San Francisco is so much more, and
Hmm.
I think that's what it is. Not that everything else is normal. The rest of the world is fairly normal. You got certain hotspots like maybe Bangalore, right?
Hmm.
Maybe Shenzhen or something. I don't know, just other specific cities. But other than these very, very few small handful of cities in the world, everyone else is struggling. Like the economy everywhere is no good. Everything's kind of bad everywhere else.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a
or at least normal.
disproportionate for the jobs that capstone grads are targeting in San Francisco,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe your second or third job, Seattle is great, but hard to break in
Yeah,
maybe.
Seattle's a bit big tech. Yeah, I think also you're just so close. Like if you're a hot startup, you want to go try to get money at in San Francisco.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah, not to say there's no zero. Like Chicago, same thing. There are jobs. It's just that we need a lot, right? We need like application referral. Like let's say there's 20, in Seattle. You're like, there's 20 companies. That is not enough for us to do a job hunt because you get rejected by all 20, you're done,
Hmm. Right.
right? You need hundreds, you need thousands, and that's what you have in San Francisco and New York.
Hmm. Right. Cool. All right. Well, I think we answered most people's questions. We don't keep salary data 3 to 5 years out. Someone was asking about like what are salaries 3 to 5 years out.
We
Some
do
people
have that,
message
right? So launchschool.com/salaries.
like 3 to 5 years. No, 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 like 3 to 5 years after, graduating and getting a job. Like,
Yeah. All right. Caps. Look, I would say half of the people just don't want to talk to me anymore. They're like, I'm done with law school, which is still good because the other half are like very active and all that. But yeah, it's hard to collect like long-term
hmm,
data, salary data. I just get anecdotal, you know,
right. And
and it
that
could be so
self-selecting group is probably
it
really good.
it could be self-select. Yeah, exactly. Like people who are struggling probably won't be like wishing me happy
Hmm.
holidays. They'd be like cursing me out.
Hmm. I should have stuck to being an architect.
Yeah, yeah.
Sweet. All right, everyone. Well, hopefully this was good. I don't see any other questions rolling in, so maybe we can wrap up there. Oh, we just got one about freelancing after graduating capstone. I don't think so. Should people
I suppose you could if you
freelance?
want. Yeah.
Freelancing, I think, is one of those things that's eaten up a lot by um, lower income, like offshoring and stuff.
Yeah, it's not our goal, I suppose. I suppose when we are trying to aim high, a lot of things are possible,
Hmm.
like kind of incidentally. Um, but that's not our main goal.
There's no easy hack to get around the hard work that it takes in capstone, I think.
Yeah. Any
It's
easy
the
hack is
answer.
just, yeah, it's not yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
feel free to
ahead.
DM me. I know I was just kidding earlier, but give me some time to I'm not probably immediately, but like feel free to follow up with yeah, questions and things like that. No worries.
Mhm. Also, fellow like previous, there are like a lot of active past grads that are happy to answer your questions too. If you post in, the Slack, there's like Capstone Info channel and stuff like that. So there's other opinions too and people to help out and stuff like that. Thanks for coming, everyone. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully, as always, your nerves have been soothed and you're feeling relaxed and confident, and you can go work on, mastering the fundamentals and not worry too much
Have
about
fun with this.
capstone yet. Yeah.
I just want to emphasize that. Try to enjoy the process now in core versus once I get through this, I will be happy. Just try to enjoy it now. You'll have a good time in all of this. So yeah,
Yeah.
Happy New Year. Thanks everyone.
Yep. Bye.